Have you had enough? I don't believe you have. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Episode 21 of the Bobby Kudo Show. You know what that means? Round and round. Guys, welcome. How about a little bit of Ratt for you? Round and round. Huh? All-American heavy metal band. Significant, ladies and gentlemen, significant commercial success in the 80s. They had a couple of albums out. Guys, welcome. Hey, guess what? We survived. We made it. Here we are. Woo, 2020. Can I tell you something, guys? I'm still struggling. Last week was a blur. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Episode 21. Here we are. So glad to have you. So glad to be here. Speaking of the new year, is it just me or is it a blur, right? You know, typically you guys, welcome everybody. If you didn't know, and now you know, I started a new position with a new company recently, and of course, when you do that, your time off, you kind of compromise. You know what I mean? New guy, low guy in the totem pole, and in this case, I kind of had to work the day after New Year's. I typically haven't had to do that in the past. Usually been able to take longer periods of time off, long tenure with companies. But you guys know, hey, you make sacrifices, things happen. But the whole point of what I'm trying to say here is having the holiday fall in the middle of the week like that. I don't know about you guys, but it just screwed everything up. I will tell you, Thursday was the worst Monday I had in a really long time. But outside of that, between Thursday and Friday, really looking forward to the weekend. And getting here, and welcome everybody. I'm so glad you're here with me. It's been quite the journey, but we made it. You guys made it. Depending on how you celebrated your New Year's, I'll be honest with you guys. Typically I should be the socialista, but in this case, a bit busy. A lot going on. We got a baby in the house. A lot of responsibility. So, 12:01, AJ was shaking me going, hey, Dad, Happy New Year. And I wished him a Happy New Year, and that's how I rang in the new year. I hope whichever way you brought in yours, whether it was with a glass of champagne or whether you were laying on the couch, either way, welcome and Happy New Year to you and to yours. Guys, we opened up with Ratt. I really enjoyed Ratt. They were, I think they came in a little later in the whole hair band thing. It was kind of like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, that whole thing. There's always one, there's another, but they did really well, and they had a couple of good songs. Of course, Round and Round being one of them. Wanted Man, You're in Love, The Dance. They were Friendly Rivals. There was Motley Crue, Poison, metal pop, right? It was like pop metal. That's what they were playing on the radio back then. That was like April 20th of 2010. They had that new album. That was the last time they released anything. Was in April 20th of 2010. The album was called Infestation. I don't know if you had a chance to hear it. I have not heard it, but welcome everybody. Just wanted to open up with something cool. Round and Round kind of has some relevance in what we're talking about here today. I'd be a fool to think I wasn't going to come on the podcast today and talk about recent events. I mean, jeepers, When you start going through your social media threads and you're reading things about, like, even the memes about World War III. I hope this is like a joke of some sort. Granted, the situation in Iran is dire. I'll tell you, this isn't a political show, guys, and I would never want it to be, but I think these are just kind of pop culture and social events, things that are really important to what's going on in today. You may be on your drive into work this morning, or wherever you are, wherever you're heading. These are things that they're talking about in the news, and that everyone's kind of worried about, and how does it affect us, and what does it do for our economy? And quite frankly, guys, Iran. Not that, again, I never would come on here and pretend to be a political scholar or a foreign policy expert of any way, shape, or form. But what I know, I read, and I also always encourage you all to do the same. But if you guys remember, in 1979, again, Iran's always been like a problem. You know what I mean? Like, somebody mentioned, I was kind of scrolling through social media, and somebody actually mentioned it, and it made sense to me. It's like Iran's always been the bully that no one's ever done anything about. You know what I mean? They've always, somehow gotten away with whatever it is they wanted to get away with. And whether it's because of the oil influence that they have, or whatever it may be, whatever that may be. And I know the relationship with Russia and Iran is pretty tight. Iran sells a lot of oil to Russia, but those relationships, again, built on economic needs. Iran, their number one gross export is crude oil, right? And countries like Russia, like the United States, are on the cutting edge of technology, regardless of what you may think. And the less and less need for crude oil and these petroleum products. When you're able to generate electrical power and run these batteries, and you're able to run your equipment without fossil fuels, then those relationships aren't as strong and committed as they once were. Again, with the Russia-Iran thing. So, but in this case, 1979, guys, it was the Iranian hostage crisis, and that was a diplomatic standoff between the United States and Iran. It was 52 American diplomats and citizens were held hostage for 444 days, from November 4th, 1979 to January 20th of 1981, after a group of Iranian college students belonging to Muslim student followers of the Imam line, who supported the Iranian Revolution, took over the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. So the reason I even bring this up is because, again, going through social media, and I will be honest with you guys, a little taken back by some of the comments. Again, I always heard, it's funny, I've always heard about Facebook, and how Facebook can be, sometimes be, I guess, just pretty blunt. And in this case, people saying things like apologizing to Iran for the actions of the United States, and we should lift we should lift the sanctions on Iran, and we're sorry, and let's get one thing clear, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't support the United States of America, if you don't support the country that you live in, supporting the country that you actually have the ability to have an opinion of that sort in, and not have your tongue cut out, or be hung for heresy. That's it's probably the biggest gross contradiction of all time. So the idea that people can go on there and apologize to Iran for things like this. Listen, guys, if you were an Obama fan, let me throw this out there. Did Obama ask Congress permission to take out bin Laden? I don't think so, right? I think we all found out after the fact. It was the next day, and he got up there real proud. Obama got up there real proud, and he said, last night our special forces went in and took out one of the most wanted man of all time, right? And they killed him. And Obama didn't call Congress and say, "Hey guys, listen, we're gonna run this special covert operation to take this guy out." He just did it. You know why he did it? Because he's the president. He's the commander-in-chief of our military forces. So with that said, he did what he thought, what was in the best interest of the country at that time, and having the ability to go ahead and do something about it. So he did. I mean, the timing was real convenient. We'll admit that. The idea of him and Hillary sitting in that briefing room and watching, and Hillary gasping at the screen. This is the same woman that allowed the embassy in Benghazi to be overtaken by terrorists, and we lost American lives there. And on September 11th, and then when she was questioned about it, and her response was, "What difference did it make?" And the answer to that is shame on you, Hillary. That's blood on your hands. And in this case, they tried to do the same thing. So Iranians in Iraq attack our embassy. An American contractor was murdered, right? An American contractor, that's an American, at the embassy, was murdered. So our president, our commander-in-chief, decides that, that this is going to go, to a place or to a situation where, we are going to have to respond in a way that shows to them that we're not just going to allow you to, kill Americans or attack our embassy, because ultimately, whether you know this or not, the American embassy, wherever it stands, that's American soil, and the people that are in that building are Americans, typically. So, wherever you go in the world, you as an American, if there's ever a safe haven for an American, that's the place you would go. So in this case, you got these Iranians attacking the embassy, and the violence escalates. And with this militia members attempted to enter the embassy, and they start fire, is damaging the outside of the reception of the embassy. The Iranians, like I said, I mentioned they killed an American contractor. They wounded many. We strongly responded at will, and now Iran is orchestrating an attack on the United States and the embassy in Iraq, and they will be held fully responsible. And that's exactly what the president said. You attacked our embassy, and now we're going to do something. So President Trump ordered on Friday the 3rd, President Trump ordered an airstrike on Thursday evening that killed the Iranian general Qasem Soleimani in Baghdad. A man, he said, was plotting imminent and sinister attacks against Americans in the region. Soleimani was a leader of the Quad Forces and covert section of the Islamic Revolution Guard Corps. I mean, these are just some nasty people, man. These are the people that they don't care, women and children. They'll just mow you right down. They don't. We're talking just an enemy, terrorism, and idealism that does not value life under any circumstances. So in this case here, we were able to take out, a leader of these bad forces, and ultimately, I think, when the president is sworn in, on the Bible, and he's getting sworn in as president, part of his duty as the commander in chief is to protect American interests both here and abroad. So for me, I support the president's decision to go ahead and do that. Do I think these events happen conveniently at certain times? Well, listen, if they didn't attack the embassy, then I'd be like, well, the whole impeachment thing and the president's maybe trying to distract, and I get that. But the fact that they attacked the embassy, and that this was in retaliation to that, and probably would, the idea that he took this guy, Soleimani out, I would imagine that he was probably the mastermind behind this event. So that's why, he took him out. I mean, maybe send a message to the Ayatollah, and saying, hey, listen, we're not gonna allow you to do something like this, where maybe a previous administration might have. This one will not. And again, I remind you guys, like, Obama didn't ask permission to take bin Laden out. So again, I remember when Trump was running for office, he said it clearly. I remember him saying it. He wasn't going to warn our enemies about when we were going to attack or when we were going to take these places out. I think, Twitter in this situation, he is on Twitter and he is, he's tweeting, that he had, I believe it was 52 sites that are within target range at this very moment. And if Iran was to retaliate in any way, shape, or form, these targets would be eliminated. I think Iran is smart enough to know better that, there's no way, guys, if this, I'm going to be honest with you, and I know, again, I try to be very careful with these things because I know people are very sensitive on presidents and everything else, but if this was with Obama, I would be concerned. I would, because the reason I would be concerned is because when Obama was president, we did not have a relationship with Russia. The relationship with Russia was pretty bad. And like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, Russia has a relationship with Iran, even if it is a economical one. So there's always been that fear that if we were to, or an event like this were to take place, that Russia would then, protect Iran's or their interests in this case. But given the relationship with the president and with Vladimir Putin, I'm gonna say that I'm not too concerned about that. I'm gonna say that they probably had a conversation about it, and Vladimir probably knew this was coming. So again, if you noticed, really no large assets were attacked, and in fact, this was in Iraq. It wasn't even in Iran. So again, does it get muddy? It does, because again, Russia does have an interest, but I think the relationship with the United States and Russia right now is pretty solid, and I don't think that we have anything to worry about. But I just I wanted to mention this, guys, because it bothered me that that us Americans would be saying things like that, like we would be apologizing. Like, when did it become okay to even if you I don't care, guys, your parents, your siblings, it's your family, right? Like, even when they're wrong, they're right. Like, granted, the privacy of your home, and to you say, and again, like most will say, I can kick them in the head, but nobody else can. And same thing in this case. You know what I mean? Like, if you're unhappy with the country, and there are certain things that you don't agree with. I don't agree with everything. I've got some situations and some issues with things that are happening in the country that I'm not happy with. But does that mean that I would ever turn my back on my country and I would say things like, "Hey, Iran, we're sorry," and it just I think it sends a bad message regardless whether you like the president or not. You know what I mean? I think that us as Americans, we have to stay united. When we're sending messages, and I'm throwing this out there to all the congressmen and senators that are out there and really have a loud voice right now. Everybody keeps saying the same thing. Well, this Soleimani was a real bad guy and he was responsible for a lot of American lives. But, there can't be a but. Like, you can't have a but. Like, the but, you can't do that. When you're talking about American lives, there is no but. It's got to be definitive. We need to know that we can go anywhere in the world as an American citizen with a passport and know that you're going to be safe. And know that you're going to be able to enjoy the environment that you're in. And that you're not going to be attacked or kidnapped or, even in this case, we're an American contractor. It's so important for our foreign relations and even our small businesses, like just to be able to go to different countries and, maybe if they have good technology that, we can bring over and use in these other places. When you're afraid to do that, you know what I mean? Like, who wants to go over there? Like, I don't want to be the sales guy you're going to send over to Iran, right? Or Iraq. I don't want to go work there. Why? Because I'm afraid I might not make it back. So again, this is important. It's more than just, us being mad that Trump decided to blow up a bad guy. There's so much more going on here. And what that is us united as a people to say, look, you can't come over here, sucker punch us, and then just walk away and not think that we're not going to come back at you. I mentioned it to you guys in the last podcast. Woman, man, doesn't matter what you are. If you're willing to walk up to somebody and punch them in the face, you better be expecting to get punched in the face back. Right? You just can't walk up to somebody and punch them in the face and then just walk away and not expect retaliation. So, I just throw that out there. Just common sense here, peeps. This is our country. And when you say things like that, and it undermines us all. It undermines everybody. I don't like seeing it. I don't like reading it. I don't want my kids to see that. I don't want your kids shouldn't see that. We should always be united. We may not agree. We may not always agree with what the decisions our parents made when we were growing up. But you'd be damned if you were going to question them. Right? Because your mom or your dad would beat your ass. That's just the way it was. So it shouldn't be any different now. I'm not saying we don't question things, and again, these are definitely times that we should be paying attention to what's going on. But when we start talking stupidness of World War III, really, guys, we have the strongest military in the world. We have the ability. Guys, do I have to remind you about Japan? Hiroshima? The idea that there would be a World War III and that we would have a draft and that's completely insane, guys. And if you believe that for 1 second, I don't know what news outlets you're reading or what social media outlets you're a part of, but you really need to reconsider, because that's not going to happen. We have submarines and we have ships. Guys, it was drones that took this guy out. It wasn't a manned aircraft. It was nothing. It was a drone. A drone took this guy out. So, it's gotten to the point where we don't even have to have humans involved. The idea that we're sending troops over there is just a show of force. Really, honestly. My prayers to those soldiers, every single one of them, making the ultimate sacrifice, going into the unknown, not knowing what they're going into. But ultimately, do I think they're in danger? I repeat, I'm not a scholar in these matters, but I'm going to tell you that I think historically, when you look at these situations, not to undermine anything, but again, I think it's a show of force to say, hey, Iran, if you make a move, we're right here. We're ready to protect Israel. Because that's where it's going to happen. If something bad's going to go down, it's going to be in Israel. So that's why we're there. We're going to protect our assets. We're going to protect our friends. Which is right. Right? And we got to protect ourselves. You, me, we're Americans. And if you're not American, you should be. And if you're not, really consider it. Consider going it and getting your citizenship and joining us. Because I will tell you, there is no better feeling in the world than knowing that you're a citizen and that we're all in this together. Because this country doesn't belong to one specific race, color, or creed. It belongs to all of us. It belongs to the citizens, right? That's what we came here and created. But wow. So listen, I just wanted to get that out of the way. I hope I'm pretty clear with that, you guys. I don't want to continue on it. I want to enjoy this podcast, episode 21. But I had to come at you just quick with that, because it's polluting the airwaves. Anything anybody's talking about is that. And I just think that, before we get ahead of ourselves here and, start talking about World War III and ridiculousness, we just really need to look at the big picture in here and say that, we don't want this to escalate. Let's hope that there's a diplomatic solution to all this. But by no way, shape, or form can we allow our enemies. And yeah, guys, I'm sorry. Iran is our enemy. They're mining. For the nuclear. Right? They want to build missiles. That's what they're doing. They're mining, weapons grade uranium, right? Because that's what they want to do. They say it's for peaceful purposes, and they want to do a nuclear like a power plant. Guys, listen. As a humanity, and I've mentioned this before, probably episode 2, probably episode 3. The idea that we think that nuclear power is the best way to generate energy, we're out of our freaking minds. The technology is advanced to the point now where we can harness the sun, we can harness the air and the wind, We can harness the ocean. There are so many ways, thermal. There's so many ways to generate power and energy now that, do we really need to? No, and the answer is no. The answer is no. Okay, so let's get back to the podcast. So again, guys, episode 21. Crazy week, just trying to catch up on everything, and I got a couple of shout outs I wanna talk about. The show, guys, the show, absolutely amazing. We've exploded. I say we, and when I say we, I'm talking about you and me, because I'd like to consider all of you just as important to the show as the content that we're creating here. I mean, the idea that I'm here and I'm able to deliver this message, I think it's for us. So, just a quick update that the show's doing fantastic. We keep picking up more and more subscribers. Like every day, the listens, the amount of people that are listening and spreading the word. I just want to thank you all, because I know a lot of that is you, spreading the word and letting people know about the podcast and the cool message that I hope I'm delivering to you all. So I'm recovering. Guys, I don't know if you can tell. I'm doing the best I can. I'm a little under the weather. And when I say under the weather, I mean just a little disappointed, a little sad. The New England Patriots got beat yesterday by the Tennessee Titans, 2013. Potentially or possibly could be the last game for Tom Brady in the New England Patriots jersey. I refuse to believe that. And of course the news media is going to spin that every which way they can, because there's nothing else to talk about other than Iran. So I refuse to believe that he's all done. I'd like to think that he's coming back next season. But of course there's always negotiations, and you never know with these things. And these things tend to pick up a mind of their own. But I'm a little disappointed about that. And if you're a New England Patriots fan, I'm sure you're feeling like I'm feeling. I don't know. You know what? I should have seen it coming. It really wasn't. They weren't playing well, and it really was a rough. It was a rough season. We had a couple of games, 10 games that were okay, but it was always that deficiency. And then of course when you lost Antonio Brown, it was a huge hit. And Edelman, he's playing, but the guy's hurt. But anyway, you know what? The season's over, so I don't want to talk about it anymore. I got to be honest with you. I'm a little disappointed that I typically wear my. I got a rule. I won't wear it unless it's the season. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't wear Red Sox out of baseball season. I don't wear, my football attire outside of football season. I don't know. It's just my thing. Unless, my only exception to the rule is unless they win the championship. And in this case, the Patriots, they win the Super Bowl. You get to wear the gear all season. The Red Sox win the World Series. So you get the point. But in this case, it's early. You know what I mean? It's January. And I'm not actually put my stuff away today. And I am wearing my Bruins shirt today, because you know what? The Bruins aren't going to let us down. The Bruins are going to bring home the cup. So we'll see. We'll see about that. So guys, I mentioned 1984. Wow, we covered a lot of ground already. 1984, 35 years ago. I just I thought a cool year. Talk a little bit about our history as always, and stay in true contrast to the show. I think that it's a great element for you. It's something great that I like to talk about. I love history, and I am one of those believers that if you forget history, then you're just doomed to repeat it. So for me, having this platform, I think to myself that one day, maybe 100 years from now, my great grandchildren will be listening to my voice. And if you are, here's a shout out from your great grandfather. Right there, you go, shout out. So I just, we just spoke into the future. How about that? So 1984, guys, just a couple of things. If you guys are curious, if you wanted to know, the cost of living. Right? Let's talk about the cost of living a little bit. Yeah, let's do that. So the cost of living in 1984, if you wanted to buy a new house, you're looking at about $86,000. The average income was right around 21,000. Not bad. I mean, comparable. If you're buying a house for like 90 grand, you're making about 21,000. That's average. That's not bad at all. Rent was going to cost you about $350, and I believe this is all based like on a 2-bedroom. So, in case you were wondering, a movie ticket was $2.50. I take you to the movies for $2.50. A gallon of gas was $1.10 already in 1984. $1.10. Whew. Dodge Ram pickup, a 50, would cost you $9,000. How about that? A Chrysler New York was going to cost you about 13 grand. A Chevy Corvette, 23,000. And you want to know what a pound of apples would have cost you? It would have cost you 43 cents. Wow, no kidding. And if you were in Chicago and you'd like to purchase a brick 2 to 3 bedroom, all modern appliances, double garage with a sun deck, that would cost you approximately $119,000. Imagine that. So that was pretty much like the cost of living in 1984. You know, not too bad, not too shabby. Some of the things that were going on there, I thought this was really cool. I couldn't wait to share this with you guys. You know, I'm gonna do a little quick shout out. If you guys haven't had an opportunity or a chance, you guys, if you follow the social media, Instagram, Facebook, you would notice, and Twitter, you would notice that Bad Bitches podcast, fantastic, talented young ladies. Absolutely love their content. If you enjoy a little bit of history, and just, you know what, together, they are fantastic. And they talk about, like, every podcast that they talk, it's the reason the name of the podcast is Bad Bitches. It's literally history, women of history that were, you know, badass, either did something either outside of the norm, crazy, murderers, you name it, and they cover a lot of those historical stories. And the quote is, women's her story. So if you guys have a chance, go over there and check it out. It's Bad Bitches with a Z, and go give them a quick listen. You know, I'll throw a link in the Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, so you guys can go check them out, because I know as soon as you listen, you can't stop. It's just they're fascinating. The content is great, which brings me to my point of what I was talking about. In 1984, tell me if you guys remember this. I didn't remember this at all, and I would tell you, I was that was 35 years ago. I was 9 years old. But you would think, like, even going back to, like, you think The Son of Sam, the Zodiac Killer, like all popular killers. Well, in 1984, the Beauty Queen Killer, the serial killer Christopher Bernard Wilder, he also known as the Beauty Queen Killer, who went on a 6-week cross-country crime spree starting in Florida on February 26th of 1984, abducted and murdered his first victim, Rosario Gonzalez. He continued across the country through Georgia, Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, Nevada, Utah, California, New York, before he was killed during a struggle with police in New Hampshire on April 13th of 1984. There were 8 confirmed murders and 12 rapes. He is known as the Beauty Killer because all of the women were attractive. This is one of the confirmed serial killers. Oh yeah, this is one of the first confirmed serial killers that was studied and provided insight to the mind of a serial killer. So how about that, guys? I didn't know the Beauty Queen Killer. I had no idea. And then the idea that it literally went across the country and ended right in my next door neighbor, New Hampshire. Wow, that's pretty. That's, I mean, not cool, but cool. So on the history end of it. So yeah, do some research on that, guys. How cool is that? I'm actually going to look and see if there's a documentary about that, because that sounds pretty interesting. 1984, the Space Shuttle Discovery launches for its maiden flight on August 30th, 1984. And you guys remember the Discovery, Challenger? They were all like there was 3 of them. And Victory, I believe it was. But they were, that's when NASA was really hot and heavy, and they were like just nonstop sending these shuttles into space. And of course, then there was the disaster in 1985 with imagine that, the school teacher from New Hampshire. New Hampshire comes up twice today. And today's podcast word of the day is New Hampshire, and she died. But that was pretty revolutionary. You know, guys. You know, the advances in technology that took place with those launches were just monumental to mankind. It really was. How about some cool stuff? MTV Video Music Awards started. That was the first year, 1984. So you can imagine Madonna, I think Wham, just some of those really pop. It was more really pop. They weren't. It wasn't really like a range. If you guys want to have, I think you might be YouTube, you'd be able to watch it. But it was really pop related. MTV was more pop than rock. So that's what you were going to get. Let's see. Do you guys remember the Band-Aid? That was when they were. I don't mean to laugh. They were. It's funny because it's Band-Aid and it's like a Band-Aid. And there was a bunch of. It was Britain and Ireland, like pop bands, musicians. They gathered all together, and they were raising money for Ethiopia for like the. They were hungry in Ethiopia for a long time, guys. Forgive me for saying this out loud, right? And maybe I'm being insensitive, but. That was always a joke, right? When we were kids, like you looked Ethiopian because you were hungry, wasn't it? It was something like, wasn't it? Along those lines. Terrible. You kids are terrible. And typically I don't mention him, but I will because of how impactful this was. Michael Jackson wins unprecedented acclaim for his album Thriller. He sold over 37 million copies. Imagine that. That was Michael Jackson's Thriller. And that was 1984. So go figure. Gee, and I remember that with Vincent Price. That was huge. And it was funny. I did happen to, I won't lie to you, admit it. I did happen to click on it. I was doing some research because I wanted to see how many copies that it sold. And when I clicked on it, if you guys go check it out if you don't believe me, when you click on the video, and at the beginning of the video, it actually says, I, Michael Jackson, am not a supporter of the occult, and this is completely artistic. So there you go, right? Imagine that he felt the need that he needed to put that in the front of, like, that was his... Oh, crazy times. Technology in 1984. Guys, how about Apple, right? Apple, the Macintosh computer went on sale during January of 1984. That is huge, guys. Apple, really, just when you think about these benchmarks, right, in technology, you have to consider Apple, right? Apple just literally has revolutionized home computing, right? I mean, the entertainment end of it, and the funny thing about Apple was they never deviated from their core value as a company. You can think about Microsoft, and not to say that they deviated, but Microsoft really created an operating system that I would consider almost, if I had to compare in comparison today, I would say that Windows is Android, and Apple is Apple, right? Because Apple never allowed you to modify or manipulate their software. Like, they've always been very, very protective over their operating systems, and it was always very difficult to use other things. Adobe, for example, Flash Player. If you guys remember the iPhone 3G when it came out, and then the 4s, it didn't have Flash Player, so there was a lot of internet entertainment that you couldn't consume because Apple wouldn't allow Adobe the rights to write the software to run in Apple. You know what I mean? And a lot of people went with Android because you pretty much could play anything on an Android because it supported the Flash Player. So keep that in mind. And again, Apple never deviated. They stayed true to their software, and they never allowed anyone to mess around with it, which was really cool. And figure 1984 they started it. Again, Microsoft, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs with Apple, and they both took off. And the Macintosh, it was pricey. It was $2,500. If you wanted, guys, you think about this for a second. You're paying $1.10 for gasoline, and you were going to spend $2,500 for a Macintosh personal computer. And if you guys remember, I remember having some of those in school, and I think the only thing we ever did with it, we played, I think it was Turtle, and it was such a basic form of HTML, and you would write code, and the turtle would move to the right so far, and then would draw a line, and the idea would be to move the turtle in so many different ways that you would draw some type of picture, whether it be, even if it was two-dimensional, a square or a pentagon or a triangle, whatever it was. But again, it provided its own GUI, graphic user interface, and it was revolutionary. And if you were in that realm of entertainment, I mean, again, this is groundbreaking stuff. This, you and I, the layman's, we were probably looking at this equipment, not even interested, but there were a lot of people out there that it was just smart, and they were just at the ground level of this technology and recognized that Apple was the way to go. Guys, the podcast is recorded, I tell you, and produced on an iMac, and I absolutely love it. And I did both ends. I did Microsoft. I ran Windows, tried that, and it was okay. But ultimately, the idea of the Mac, it's everything's so smooth transition, and I almost say it's like just easy. You know what I mean? It just, there's no lag. It just responds well, and it's tried and true. So the idea, I told you, I mentioned this in the past. I record the podcast in its entirety, so it's very important for me that this doesn't, skip or shut down or have a moment of update. You know what I mean? In the middle of it. What else here, guys? How about this? The AIDS virus is identified by a French immunologist. How cool is that? Obviously in the sense that it's identified, for many, many years. I've mentioned it, another podcast, I believe 15. We talked about it a lot with Ryan White, the birth of AIDS and how that affected us as a people, but we've overcome, we really have. I mean, not to say, or undermined, the dangers of AIDS, the AIDS virus, HIV, but we have become so, I believe, so much more in tune with it around us, and just being aware of the safeties that you need to adhere to in order to protect yourself and keep yourself safe. But even in the event that you do contract it, I mean, there are ways to combat it with medications now. So, it's just not a death sentence anymore. So we can always hope that at some point we'll be in the same situation with cancer. How great would that be? To not lose another soul to such a terrible disease. Sony Philips introduced the first commercial CD players. How about that in 1984? I'll tell you guys, when CD players came out, the first ones that came out, it was terrible. If the slightest vibration, if somebody was coming to your house and they knocked on the door and you were playing a CD, it would skip. It was that terrible. Of course, 1984 is when they launched it, but since then, the technology, the advances in technology and layers, they've come a long way. Granted, it's not as widely used anymore. Now you have flash drives and everything is really flash media, SSD, but for a very long time, you think about it, guys, the amount of plastics, right, between vinyl, vinyl records, 8-tracks, cassettes, VHS, CDs, right? CDs, all of that's gone. You know what I mean? Imagine that we're not even, that's all just gone. No more. We're not burning and melting those plastics anymore because there's just no need for it. Isn't that fantastic? That's just, I don't know. I think that's just great. But in speaking of plastics, guys, I will, I don't want to jump ahead here, but have you guys had a chance to, I don't know if you guys are if you guys like to cruise, you like going cruising and cruise ships in the tropical, beautiful tropical waters, in the Bahamas and Bermuda and Cozumel, Mexico. I'll tell you that, Rachel and I, when we went on a honeymoon, that's what we did. We did the Eastern Caribbean, and we went on the Carnival Cruise Line. Have you guys heard about this terrible situation? This is a perfect example of shitting where you eat. You know what I mean? I think that's the best way to put this. I will go on the record and say that when you have an industry that is based, in the ocean, right? The ocean is the reason why you exist. You create and build these gigantic, enormous vessels. You fill them with thousands and thousands of people. Literally, we're talking cities, right? Cities on water. And you float these beautiful creations in the beautiful crystal clear waters of the ocean. So imagine that, and all in all, you find out that they're, you know what, what I did is I actually put I got a clip here. I was going to save this, guys, in towards maybe towards the end of the podcast, but the idea that we're talking about plastics and the amount of plastics that we're no longer polluting the oceans with, and to be honest with you, even the idea of the straw, the straws, and you can't, straw bans, right? No more straws, you can't have straws anywhere. I mean, how absolutely insane is that? You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's absolutely crazy that we would live in a world where if I want to use a plastic straw, I can't do that because someone thinks that the straws are what's killing the turtles in the ocean. Well, you know what? Let me enlighten you a little bit. Turns out Carnival Cruise Line, they're the ones I mentioned earlier, the cruise ship lines. They've been dumping. They have been literally dumping their trash into the water. How about that? So they take these ships, right? They sail these ships out. And this is twice. So in 2017 and then 2018. The more recent one, let me tell you about the more recent one, because I have a video, I have a clip, an audio clip for the infraction in 2017. But right now in 2018, Carnival Cruise Corporation has agreed to pay $20 million after pleading guilty to releasing food and plastic waste into the ocean off the Bahamas. Environmental groups and customers have argued that fines on the order of $20 million are not significant enough to force Carnival Cruise Corporation to change its long-held dumping practices. The fine of $20 million is equivalent to just 0.1% of the $18.88 billion that Carnival Corporation brought in for 2018. So that's in 2018, guys. They're floating their cruise ships in the Bahamas, and they're dumping their trash, their plastics and their food trash into the ocean. Can you believe that's happening? Like, when I seen this, like, I'm like, you know what? If I was ever put on this planet for a purpose, and if I ever had a voice, I would, and if I ever seen anything like this, that I would be the first one to literally ring the alarm. Like, this is catastrophic. This is, talk about shitting where you eat. And that's not even the worst part is this isn't the first time. In 2017, right? Listen to this. In 2017, Carnival Corporation and its subsidiaries have a long history of illegally dumping everything from single-use plastics to oil into the oceans they sail in. In 2017, the same subsidiary, Princess Cruises, pleaded guilty to illegally dumping oil. Yes, oil. From the Caribbean Princess cruise ships, and intentionally trying to cover it up. Again, the fine was $40 million that they paid in 2017. That amounted to just 0.2% of the $17.51 billion that they brought in. Guys, I'm going to play just a quick clip for you guys. It's 2 minutes long, but you got to hear this, because if you're considering going on a cruise, or if you enjoyed going on cruises, I will tell you that this right here, this just completely changed my mind, and I won't do it again.
Princess Cruises will pay a $40 million fine for dumping oily waste into the ocean. It is the largest penalty of its kind in history. The company also pleaded guilty to 7 felony charges. Peter Greenberg is here with what prompted the investigation. Peter, good morning.
Good morning. A whistleblower discovered the elaborate workaround system on Princess ships 3 years ago and alerted investigators. The ships were using a so-called magic pipe to divert oily water and then dumping it illegally into the ocean. Investigators charged the cruise line had been dumping thousands of gallons of contaminated water for at least 8 years.
Our open seas are not dumping grounds for waste.
The Justice Department says ship engineers aboard the Caribbean Princess repeatedly polluted the ocean and went to great lengths to cover up their criminal actions.
There was a campaign of obstruction, in an effort to hide the deliberate pollution of our seas with oily waste.
Cruise ships store so-called bilge water, a mixture of water, oil, and other chemicals below deck. They're required to filter it and store it until they get to port, which can be expensive. The DOJ says Princess Cruises used what's called a magic pipe, connected to a hose, to feed the dirty water into a tank that holds water from the ship's sinks and showers. In some places, cruise lines are allowed to dump that water at sea. A whistleblower turned over these pictures from inside the ship. Investigators say the cruise line used illegal practices on not one, but 5 of their ships over the 8-year period.
We are very sorry for any harm done to the environment.
Princess Cruises President Jan Swartz says several employees were fired and many retrained.
We have worked very hard to improve and strengthen our operations and learn from our mistakes. We've dramatically changed our shipboard and shoreside fleet operations, organizational structure, and leadership. We've invested in millions of dollars upgrading our equipment.
It's not the first time a cruise line has been hit with big penalties for similar charges. In the late 1990s, Royal Caribbean paid $27 million in 2 separate cases, and 3 of the ship's engineers were indicted. The plea agreement also requires all Princess ships to participate in a court-supervised environmental compliance program. $10 million of the settlement will go toward community service projects to benefit marine environments. Nora?
Now, if that isn't an absolute devastating shame to anyone, I mean, seriously. Like, the idea that any of us would we would go on a cruise ship, right? We would go on a cruise ship because something about being on the ocean and enjoying, like, nature and being outdoors and these beautiful creations that float on the ocean. Meanwhile, they're dumping their garbage and just trash into the ocean. Imagine that. Like, I can't believe that somehow we didn't hear about this like sooner than later. The idea that it took this long to hear about it and that there were others that were doing the same thing. You know what? Shame on me for not thinking otherwise. I mean, you think of the amount, like, those ships are gigantic, right? I think now they can put 3,000 people on some of these ships, 3,500 people on some of these ships. I know that when we went, I think there was like 2,200 people on the ship. So it's gigantic. And the idea that all these people are using bathrooms and showers and, I mean, the amount of liquids and fluids you would imagine, trash that would generate. I mean, seriously, think about it. I mean, how quickly, right? So I guess the idea behind it would be, like, if you can dispose of it quick enough, right, then you're good to go, right? You don't have to. Oh, that's just tragic, guys. I got to be honest with you. I don't even know that I'll ever travel on a cruise ship ever again. Like, the idea that they would be doing this and deliberately dumping this stuff into the ocean. It breaks my heart. It really does. So, I wasn't going to go there, but I wanted to share that with you guys. I thought it was, like, just really, really important. When I saw it, when I heard it, I'm like, geez, I got to share this with the audience because I think everybody has a right to know. And I apologize if you have a cruise ship or a cruise trip already booked and you're going to go. And I guess, hey, look, if you want to go for it. I mean, granted, they are paying the penalties, but ultimately, at the end of the day, like, what a shame, right? I mean, talk about mud on your face and shitting where you eat. You know what I mean? Like, that's just terrible. So 1984, back to where we were at. Genetic fingerprinting or DNA profiling was developed and is now widely forensic scientists. So DNA, right? The birth of DNA in 1984. How crazy is that? That really changed everything, didn't it? I mean, how many people wrongfully accused that were in jail that were right? Like, they just found innocent, and it's just fantastic when you think about all the good. And then, of course, on the other side of that, how many criminals and really just bad people has it taken off the streets because now you're able to find these people, right? I mean, crazy. Did you guys know Ronald Reagan was the president? Reaganomics. That was an election year, 1984. Defeated Walter Mondale. Yeah, that I can't imagine that being too difficult. But anyway, he was the president. And even now you'll notice a lot of people will refer to Reagan. They liked Reagan. I mean, granted, don't get me wrong, guys. There was always some backdoor dealings and things going on, but ultimately, Reagan was. I remember my parents loved Reagan, and he was a Republican, you know. And when my parents came over here, and my mom continues to be Democratic, and that was kind of like the mindset, you know. If you came over here, if you were an immigrant, kind of like what it is now, not much different. You know, the Democrats will claim that they have your best interest in mind, but ultimately, aren't we all? I mean, at the end of the day, we're all immigrants, right? I mean, and I guess your political choices shouldn't be based on whether you're an immigrant or not. It should be based on what your values are, and you know, the guy that you think is best fit to you know, rule the country in your best interest, right? I mean, that's what I think anyway, but you may feel differently. Let's talk about some movies, guys. 1984. How about Who Are You Gonna Call? Huh? Ghostbusters. That was huge. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. You know, I wrote, guys, I'll tell you, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. That was my introduction to Indiana Jones, like legit, because it was, I believe there was one before it, but that one there, the way they marketed it was fantastic. I remember it had come out on VHS, and I watched it. I must have watched it a million times. What a great Indiana Jones that was. And I think my personal opinion, probably one of the best ones. Gremlins was out, guys. Beverly Hills Cop. Eddie Murphy, right? Have you guys heard recently? Eddie Murphy returned to Saturday Night Live. Going back to a couple of his skits, doing his thing. Funny, I was listening to some information, actually some news about it, and I guess Bill Cosby made a statement. I guess because Eddie Murphy made a joke or an impersonation of Who's America, you know, something along the lines of Who's America's Dad Now. I think Eddie Murphy, guys, no joke. I think Eddie Murphy has 10 kids. He's got a shitload of money, so he can afford to have 10 kids. But he made the comment along the lines of Who's America's Dad Now. Who thought that? I think it was something along the lines of who thought that Bill Cosby would be in jail and I would be America's dad. I think it was along those lines, and Bill Cosby somehow put out a statement saying that it's not okay to kid or make jokes about Bill Cosby. I don't know. I find it all humorous, but nonetheless, Eddie Murphy making a comeback. I know he's got a movie coming out, but he's one of those guys like disappears for a while, then comes back, disappears, comes back, and he's back, and he's in the movies again. He's doing his thing, so good for him. You know what I mean? I think that's fantastic, and you know, I will tell you guys, I was always a fan of Eddie Murphy. I was a little disappointed. He did an interview. And then an interview, if you guys have watched Eddie Murphy, if you go back into the days of him and Saturday Night Live, he also did he did a lot of stand-up, and he did Eddie Murphy Raw. It was Eddie Murphy, I'm sorry, it was Raw was the second one, and then Delirious was the first one, Eddie Murphy Delirious. If you ever have a chance, if you guys like stand-up comedy, do yourself a favor, watch Eddie Murphy Delirious. Literally just probably one of, if not the best comedy stand-up acts that I have ever seen. That just, I mean, start to finish, you start laughing, you tears. But he was asked about that and how he felt about some of the things, because you know what, he really was in that stand-up. He really, everybody gets it. You know, whether you're black, white, gay. It didn't matter. Everybody, skinny, fat. It didn't matter what everybody got it, and that was the cool thing about it, was everybody got it. You know, he wasn't just picking on one particular person. He would always make his comedy relatable to himself, kind of like in a family fashion, that he had a crazy uncle or a crazy aunt or a gay friend, or you know, it was all relatable to him the way that it was written, but. You know, he was asked about it, and he didn't own it. You know, he was kind of like, I kind of cringe when I hear it. Really? And I say, why would you cringe when you hear it? We laughed about it then, and it was funny. And here we are. We're still all here, and you know, I wouldn't imagine that anybody got hurt because of it. And it was funny. You know, and I'll repeat this, and I've said it before. You know, when did we lose the sense that we couldn't laugh at ourselves? When did that become okay, that, you know, look, we can't make fun of one another, we can't laugh and joke? I think there's a difference between bullying and making fun or having fun with someone. And in this case, in most part, I'd like to think that, comedy has always been kind of off limits, and you could say what you wanted to, and you could be funny, and you could have, an opinion. And it was funny. It didn't matter, and it seems like that's all changed now, that not even comedy is safe, that if you're hurting somebody's feelings or you're saying something that's not, PC, you're going to be just, tarred and feathered and removed and not be able to participate in anything, right? Like they just completely, that comedian, his name escapes me, but I mentioned him before. He said some comments about the Chinese, and the day before he was supposed to be on Saturday Night Live, they fired him, right? So crazy stuff. So there you go, full big circle with Eddie Murphy. So welcome back, Eddie Murphy. Other movies. I did mention Beverly Hills Cop with Eddie Murphy. Terms of Endearment, The Karate Kid, Ralph Macchio, Cobra Khan. That was, I tell you guys, that was talk about trend, pop culture. The Karate Kid, that was huge. I know they did Karate Kid 2, but one ultimately, Mr. Miyagi. We all wanted to be the Karate Kid. Just single mom, right? That was like right up my alley. Single mom, working 2 jobs. Guys, I was like textbook Ralph Macchio, man. I could have been the Karate Kid. Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. I will tell you guys, I mentioned it before, I am a fan, Star Trek fan. I believe that The Wrath of Khan was the best Star Trek movie. My favorite would be The Wrath of Khan. But if I had to pick a second one, I think 3, The Search for Spock, was pretty good. So not to bore you guys all with my geekiness, but that was just my opinion on that. I wouldn't have forgiven myself if I didn't give you my opinion on that. Police Academy, hilarious. Great fun. Again, that old school humor, funny slapstick, a little bit of everything. Hightower, good stuff. If you have a chance, Police Academy, go check it out. Romancing the Stone. It's with that Kurt Douglas. I think it's Kurt Douglas. Splash, that was with Tom Hanks. Of course, the original Terminator, I'll Be Back, with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That was huge. And even now, that franchise continues, and they run with that. I mean, I think it's Terminator 41 now, if I'm not mistaken. Amadeus, The Killing Fields, and Passage to India. Didn't see any of those. But so there you go. So that was movies in 1984, right? There's some cool movies there that I remember quite well. I'm going to talk about music. We talk a little bit about music if you guys want. I know I always like to talk about music, so we could do that. Some popular artists were, let's see, we had Phil Collins, Billy Joel. How about some Billy Joel? Who else do we have here? Tina Turner. Do you guys remember Tina Turner? Tell me you remember Tina Turner. Did you guys know? Here's a little fact for you. Tina Turner had an insurance policy on her legs. $1 million. In the 80s, that was a lot of money. So what's love got to do with it? Absolutely nothing. It was all about the money. It was all about the money. Who else do we have here? David Bowie was big. David Bowie. You guys like David Bowie? How about a little bit of this? You remember this? And it's only because it's just out of respect. Because you remember this one? No New Year's Day to celebrate. 3 chords, guys. No chocolate covered candy. I think this song sold a bazillion copies. It was number 1 over and over again. 3 chords. Brilliant, Stevie. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, great stuff. How about, do you guys remember, and I mentioned this before, and I always get a little nervous when I when I mentioned it. But if you guys remember, I've mentioned in the past that I am a fan of Duran Duran, and if you hear this one, this was big in 1984, and the beginning is a little off, and you might not know what it is, but once it gets going, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that.
You've gone too far this time, but I'm dancing on the Valentine. I tell you, somebody's
right?
fooling around with my
Sunglasses. Driving in your convertible with your sunglasses on and your Don Johnson white jacket on, right? Like an episode of Miami Vice. Fantastic stuff, guys, right? That's Duran Duran. Yeah, how do you not like Duran Duran? And then, of course, listen, and this will be my last one, and we'll for music anyway. But this song, the very first band I was ever in was myself, my brother Lou, and my cousin Mario.
I don't mind you coming here, wasting all my time.
And this was the first song we ever learned.
'Cause when you're standing oh so near, I kinda lose my mind.
Rick Ocasek,
It's not the perfume that you wear,
Benjamin Orr,
it's not the ribbons in
Elliot
your
Easton,
hair.
Greg Hawkes,
When you coming here,
and David Robinson, the Cars.
and wasting all my
Fantastic, guys. This takes me back. Just good stuff, right? Love it. Love it. I hope you enjoy it. You know what? Did a little something different with the music this time, guys. I figured we'd bring a little sampleization. You hear stuff like that, and I always say it takes you back, right? It really does. I believe that it does. It just brings you to that moment. You know what I mean? Like you can remember, like you were there, right? I hope so. TV programs, 1984. How about a little Magnum PI, a little Dynasty. Entertainment Tonight was still on television. Falcon Crest, never watched it. Hill Street Blues, Cagney and Lacey. Cheers, right? Cheers was huge, guys. You remember Cheers? Where everybody knows you. Fame was big as well. But what was bigger than Knight Rider? Huh? The Hasselhoff, David Hasselhoff kit, right? That was the greatest show on television. Greatest show ever. And I think it was on, if I remember correctly, it was on Fridays. And it was the Dukes of Hazzard and Knight Rider. And then shortly thereafter was the A-Team. B.A. Baracus, right? Hannibal, mouth, face, I should say. It was a great show, guys. I mean, if you don't remember, go back and take a look, man. Just some great television. And you know what? Last but not least, Jeopardy. Jeopardy was there. And of course, Alex Trebek. They just did a special on him recently, and him talking about him dealing with the pancreatic cancer and how it's affected him in his life. And, strong, amazing individual, just smart guy. He's been doing it. I mean, the guy's a staple, right? I mean, I think, not that I'm a fan, but Steve Colbert, if you were to take people in time, I think he had Jesus Christ, Santa Claus, and Alex Trebek, right? Right? Think about that, right? It's just how important he's been to our pop culture. I mean, I as long as I can remember, Alex Trebek's been on television, and whether it was with the previous game shows, but Jeopardy, he's been doing Jeopardy for just literally ever. But I did read, it's almost kind of sad, but he has only made one request, and that is when he decides to retire, that he's asking for 30 seconds at the end of the show. So, obviously I would imagine that his way of saying thank you to everyone for the many, many years of airtime. But Alex Trebek, you're a hero, buddy. I hope everything works out for you in your life. I mean, he's fighting. The guy is fighting. So That's a beautiful thing to see. Just not giving up and continuing to fight in what you believe in. You guys want to talk about some toys, 1984 toys? How about ColecoVision? The ColecoVision console was available, and it would come with Donkey Kong, and it was $129. Yep, $129. You could also get the A-Team, the A-Team RC car. That was going to run you about $70. And then there was Twirly Curly's Barbie. That was $10.99. My Little Pony was big, and Care Bears. Yeah, Care Bears are really big. That'd be cool. You think back about that stuff, man. It was cartoons and toys, but that ColecoVision, man. That's, if you can get your hands on a ColecoVision, how much fun is that, right? Like, seriously. And that is that there. And then, just, real quick, I just want to mention, guys, Etsy, right? I haven't, speaking of toys, which, you guys have a chance, get over there, check it out. www.etsy.com/shop/The Bobby Kudo Show. You guys can get there through the any of the social media platforms. There's a link there to check it out. And show your support for the show, guys. I mentioned a lot in the last podcast, kind of sales kind of slowed down a little bit. I haven't been marketing it as much as I was before, but again, I just want to mention any support from you guys is greatly appreciated. Again, I mentioned, there is a cost to put this all together. The servers and everybody wants a little bit. The website, and the sales from Etsy do help with that. And I get it. Kind of some of the prices are a little high on the merchandise, but I will tell you that that is kind of like the cost out there for print on demand. I mean, I don't have a budget to say, let me order 100 T-shirts and then ship them out myself. I mean, obviously there's cost savings in that, and I could probably sell T-shirts for $15 a T-shirt. But at the end of the day, that's all I would be doing, would be selling T-shirts and not anything else. So for me, using the Etsy, in case you guys didn't know, the way that it works is I use Printful as my on-demand print service. What I'll do is, I build the product through Printful, and I go ahead and I create the mug, create the hats, the shirts, the jackets, all those things, and order the samples, get the samples in, proof everything, make sure that it's quality, and then publish it. And then what happens is Etsy is my storefront, so Etsy actually handles the transaction, so I don't need to get a credit card machine per se, or I don't need a way. They manage that for me. So again, all along the way, there are costs involved with that. So by the time we're done, if I'm selling a T-shirt for let's say $20 on Etsy, and Printful is my on-demand, I'm probably looking at about $1.50 in profits from the T-shirt by the time it's all said and done. And it, granted, it's not much, but the way I look at it is, one, it's the benefit of getting the brand, right? The brand is out there and people are seeing the brand, the Bobby Kudo Show, and and I think that's very, very important to have exposure for the show. But second to that is, again, the $1.50, the $2, the $3, whatever it may be, that all goes into an account, and that helps offset the costs from, again, the podcast server, and the website, and again, the toys, the hardware that's involved. If you guys remember episode 20, I did the live cast along with that, and I kind of did it kind of rudimentary because I just used the iPad. I set the iPad up and I did it from there. Since then, I will tell you guys that some upgrades. I did get the webcam set up, and I'm familiarizing myself with new software called OBS, and with the OBS software, it really adds the quality and element of like a professional like broadcast, where you guys, if I'm going to do the live cast, or I'm going to do a cast of some sort, whether it be, even when you think about it, if I was going to go ahead and do like a recording, maybe like I could record the podcast or an interview, and maybe share something later, or do like bonus content that maybe I could monetize, and it would help the show. You know what I mean? Maybe for $1 or something that you could watch an interview or a portion of an interview. I don't know, guys. I'm just trying to think of different ways that I could try to market the show to just generate a little bit of revenue that's going to help maintain it. I will be honest with you guys. I am absolutely flattered. I have been approached about some sponsorship, and I just, again, guys, to me, this is all just, it's a dream come true. And the idea that there's an individual out there that would want to sponsor the show, I'm blasted by that, and I'm so absolutely grateful. And by saying that is the reason I'm saying that is that anybody out there, if you're interested in sponsoring the show, if you like some some advertising. Again, I don't want to do, and I've mentioned this to you guys in the past, I don't want to do commercials. I don't want to do that. I don't want to take away from the show, some loud commercial coming in and then me coming back in. I think it's distracting. I think it ruins the flow. But if I had the opportunity to incorporate something that I think is good for you, for the listeners, and I think it's a fit, then it's a bonus, right? Like if I'm talking about it and it's something that we would use or utilize, then it's worth it, right? I mean, it's just, I think it's a win for everybody. So if you're out there and you're looking for a platform to advertise or market your business or your product, just send me an email, thebobbykudo@gmail.com. Obviously any of the platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you can send me a message there. And we can talk about it. Again, I'm at the ground floor of this stuff, so the subscriber base continues to grow. We're getting so big that there's more and more people listening. So again, it's only natural for the progression of the show to grow, and I think this is a great direction to do that. Where I could, again, commit more time to the show, strengthen the content, continue to stay dynamic, keep you guys engaged and just interested in what we're talking about here. because ultimately the message has always been clear for me, and that is, how do I clear the noise for you? How do I filter the muddy water and give you a clean glass of fresh, clean water to drink? And that's my purpose here, and that's what I'm trying to accomplish and achieve. And I hope that's translating in what you guys are hearing, because it's very important. So if you have a chance, like I said, I mentioned before, go over to Etsy. And guys, cool stuff. This is quality gear. You know what I mean? I'm not just, this isn't just junk we're selling. I mean, legitimately, this is really good stuff. And go get yourself a beanie. Get yourself a sweatshirt or a t-shirt. If you're a fan of the show, you got to get yourself a t-shirt. You know what I mean? I'm sporting mine, always wearing it wherever I go. And there's a couple of you out there, Randy, Joe, Steve, that also have them. Jay Archibald. You know what? I will tell you guys that currently right now, Jay Archibald, you, my friend, are the only one fan that has the limited edition Bobby Kudo sweatshirt, with the sleeves. That's you're the only one. So unless someone else buys one, man, that's you are unique, and you have the original one and only. So good for you, brother, and I really appreciate the support in getting that. And if you have a second, Jill, snap a selfie of him or a picture of him and shoot that over. I'd love to share that with the fans because we'd love to see it. I'd love to see how nice those sleeves look on that limited edition sweatshirt. Speaking of shout outs, how about have you guys seen Anna's Heavenly Creations, the cupcakes? Oh my God. If you haven't checked that out, please go check it out. She is just talented, amazing, delicious, all those things. And if you I know, and I mentioned it in episode 20 and I'll mention it in this one, if you guys have a second, go take a look, because if you're looking for a gift idea, she does these amazing, wonderful baskets. And if you're specific on what you want, she'll give you a budget, or you give her a budget of what you're looking to spend and what the theme might be. And she puts these amazing creations together and will ship them anywhere. And you don't have to worry about it, right? If you have an anniversary coming up or a birthday or just anything, right? For someone you care about. And the prices, I mean, listen, I ordered those edible arrangements there with the fruit. Ridiculous, man. You order like 12 freaking strawberries and it's $120. You know what I mean? For like literally 12 strawberries that are dunked in chocolate. It's completely outrageous and overpriced. Don't waste your money on that. Doing something that is getting stored in some cooler. Go over see Anna, and just go look at those cupcakes. I mean, like I said, she does the cupcakes, the cakes. I know she was doing like ready meals too, which is a great idea. So go check it out. It's Anna, ANA _ Cabeceras, CABECEIRAS, and she's on Instagram. And then one more real quick, Gary. Gary was on the show, guys. And I want to just give Gary a shout out. Gary also approached me about maybe some sponsorship. Again, I mentioned to you guys, he's been doing the real estate thing and just fantastic. He's currently working with me, helping, my brother and I, try to find my mom a condo, maybe get her out of, she's in a multifamily house, kind of just, you know what, I think she's outgrown it age-wise. And to be honest with you, I don't have any room in my life at this moment to be babysitting a multifamily house. So, we're looking to get her in a condo, and Gary's just absolutely fantastic. Just knows, listen, if you're looking for somebody honest, who's going to take care of you and in your best interest in mind, hit him up. He's on Instagram, Cab Ragoon, CABRAGOON, and just DM Gary, let him know that you heard it. You heard about him here on the Bobby Kudo Show. And even Anna too. Let her know you heard about her on the Bobby Kudo Show, and show your support, because you know what, guys, these are people like you and I with dreams and hopes that they want to build something great, and they're trying to do that. And for me, if anything I can do to help support, and I've mentioned it to you guys, and I throw it out there to every one of you. If you guys need a shout out somewhere, supporting any of these groups or any benefits, charities, anything at all, please just send me a message. I would love to throw it out there and put it on the airwaves and spread the word to all the fans. So remember to do that. The Bobby Kudo Show at gmail.com, at Bobby Kudo, at _Bobby _Kudo on Twitter. And you guys can leave me a message there as well. So go check that out. And guys, listen, I don't want to go out on a bad note or a sad note, but I do want to mention Australia, and how terrible is that? A total of 146 fires burning right now across the state, 65 uncontained. That's about 20. They got 2,700 firefighters down there right now trying to fight these fires. And literally the tragedy, it's literally blackened about 5 million what do they call it? Hectares in Australia. For us, it's 12.3 million acres of earth that has been scorched across South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia. It's prompted millions of dollars of donations from movie stars. People are actually kicking in and trying to help out. I think I'm not a huge fan. I'm not going to pretend to be, but Pink. She donated $500,000 directly to supporting the firefighters. That's fantastic, right? It's one thing that these rich and famous, they make a lot of money, and I'm never bitter about that. I don't ever want anyone to think that I'm bitter about someone's success. Except for Barbara Streisand. But outside of her, I'm very happy for people when they're successful. And then when they go ahead and they do something like this, where they literally give up, a lot to help out a cause, especially when it's for everyone's best interest. You guys, those koala bears, those poor koala bears, just poor things they can't move fast enough. They're like they're like our friend the sloth. You know what I mean? They're slow moving creatures, and they don't move very quickly. And it's just tragic that all these animals and all these people are being displaced. But then again, guys, let's keep in mind, we haven't been here very long. And I know that, there's a lot of talk of climate change and the earth and what can we do to make it change. And, guys, I'd like to consider myself an intelligent person. And I hope that if you're listening to the show that you're very intelligent as well. So when I say this, I mean we have to, again, I think when you think of the magnitude of the planet, the sheer size and magnitude of the planet, and the size of us as people, don't get me wrong. I believe that we do have some impact on the planet. I believe that. I really do. Like when you have those oil spills and the BP and the Gulf and like all that stuff, like that's so like just terrible and detrimental to nature. No different than in the African savannah, like there's no more rhinoceroses because in elephants because they're getting, these poachers are shooting. Like I believe that impact is there and that we affect the environment that way. But when you talk about the earth and you talk about the cycles the earth goes through, not that I would take away anything from the people in Australia. That's just a terrible tragedy. But what happens when a volcano erupts, right? And the volcano spews out all this lava, and the lava just completely just destroys everything in its path. Do we call that? Do we say that is preventable? Do we say that is like that's environmentally tragic and that mankind had something to do with that? The answer is no. We have nothing to do with volcanoes, right? Earthquakes and volcanoes. Out of all the natural disasters between tornadoes, volcanoes, but even the tornado thing, you can kind of get, if you're affecting the water temperature in the ocean, and you can create more tornadoes, like that whole argument can exist. But when you talk about earthquakes and you talk about volcanoes, we have no control over that. But at any moment, either one of those can happen, and the devastation is catastrophic, right? At any moment. So I just caution you guys to not fall into this warp of narrative that just it just somehow blaming us, mankind, for the terrible shape the earth is in. And quite honestly, guys, I believe that the sheer size of the planet and the cycles of the planet, 100 years for us seems like a long time. 100 years for the planet is literally like a second. You know what I mean? The planet's been here for millions of years. It'll be here for millions of years after we're gone, unless we decide to, or choose, or learn to evolve. Because ultimately, we like the sun, right? The sun continues to heat, and at some point, the sun will cease to exist. It'll explode and it'll go supernova. Like scientifically, we know all that. So when you put all that into perspective and you say, like, gee, what, the earth and the planet and the ice caps are melting, guys, the earth is going to go through these cycles. And although for us, it's things that we've never seen before, when you think of us as a race on this planet, we just got here. You know what I mean? Like we just arrived. When you look at the timeline and you look back at the millions and millions and millions of years of the planet's existence, all the way back to the dinosaurs, even before the dinosaurs, what the planet was, and here we are, mankind. Maybe a couple of thousand years we've been here, and so and how long have we been recording? Actually recording the Earth's patterns and weather events. Like, so we don't even have the data to support the things that everyone is claiming. Do I think we need to be environmentally conscious? Yeah, of course, absolutely. Does it mean you throw your trash on the ground? Does it mean we recycle? Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't we do those things? I think those things are just responsible. Trying to reuse and repurpose whatever you can to eliminate just putting waste in one place and forgetting about it. But do I think that we're the reason why the Australian, savannah, like why that is on fire? No, I don't believe so. If you ask me about, South America, Argentina, if we talk about the rainforest, that's different. You know why that's different? Because there are people out there deforesting that. They're cutting millions and millions of acres down of vegetation, and it's causing this impact to the local environment. Is that a global impactful situation? you're damn right it is when the rainforest produces 70% of the oxygen on the planet. So it's, again, how our impact is relevant here is, someone's pinching the tube. You know what I mean? We can't get the oxygen. So there are certain things I think we need to really just look at and reconsider as a world. Again, you can in the United States you can talk about regulations and EPA and we want to. That's fine. That's here in the United States. When you think of the grand scheme of things, guys, when you look at the continent of the United States in comparison to Europe, China, South America. When you look at landmass wise, if China doesn't give a shit and China is pumping out, CFCs constantly and everything they produce, quite honestly, what we do really doesn't matter, right? I mean, it's so somehow, Greta's all mad at us, the United States and pollution and everything. Well, listen, at least we're conscious about it. And I think, regardless of government or not government, I think we are all more sensitive to our carbon footprint now than we've ever been in the past. So, the way I look at that is if you choose to, live in a world where you think that we're killing the planet, then I think that's a sad place to be. But if you choose to live in a world to say, hey, look, I know that my impact does affect the world and the people around me, so I'm going to minimize my carbon footprint. And just be conscious about it, then I think we're okay. I think we'll be all right. I don't foresee us living in Waterworld with Kevin Costner. You know what I mean? I don't think that's something that's imminent. But somehow there's a narrative out there that wants us to believe that that's the case. Guys, this is coming from. Look, I love the planet. I'm a naturalist. I'm the one that I'm the guy that raised his kids and told his kids that everything has a purpose. We don't kill flies and we don't kill. Well, I take that back. I will zap a fly with the bug zapper, but we don't. But I won't kill a spider. I won't kill a spider. I typically don't kill a bug. I'll unless it looks like it can hurt me. I typically like to capture it in some way, shape, or form, and I'll release it. I mean, not too long ago we caught a spider. The thing was the size of a softball. I caught it and released it into the woods. Most would have just hit it with a shoe and it would have been all over. But again, I'm a naturalist and I believe everything has a purpose, because to me, that big spider is going to eat a big ass bug. So thank you, buddy. I appreciate what you do for me. So that's how I look at that. But all of us as a people, as a nation, even as a race, I think we need to realize that again, we should all be conscious about it. But do I think that we're killing the planet? No, I don't believe that. I don't think that we're killing the planet. I think that we're living amongst it, and I think that maybe there was a time there, the textile industry, and we really weren't aware of what we were pumping into the atmosphere. Today, that's different. You know what I mean? Your car can't even, if your car farts the wrong way, you don't get an inspection sticker. So, we're so far from that. It's unbelievable. Again, I wanted to talk a little bit about that, and I thought that the Australia situation kind of fit right into that that point that I was trying to make. So again, take that information and do with it what you will, but understand. And I don't believe that we should. And you might feel differently. I just don't feel that we should beat ourselves up. Should we? Again, we should be conscious. Yes, we should be conscious, but. To the magnitude of what they're telling us, I think is a little outrageous. I think it's just another political point that they're trying to use to scare us. Hey, listen here, if you don't do this, then the Earth's gonna cease to exist. Guys, you have to believe that there are enough scientists and scholars in the world that if that was the case, I think we'd be hearing from a different source in maybe getting some source of direction of what we could do to try to minimize killing the planet. But do I think we're killing the planet? No, I think we're using it. I just think we could be a little smarter at mining what we need from it. Because again, living on the surface, guys, we don't have to dig holes in it to get what we need. Everything's right on the surface, right? And that's, guys, that was pretty much, the podcast. again, just kind of little jet lag coming off of the this weird holiday week, Christmas week, New Year's week. Thankfully this is being the leap year. Right now it'll be on a Friday, like Christmas and New Year's will fall on a Friday next year. So at least we'll have the weekend. It'll seem a little more normal. I can take a 3-day weekend, but taking a day off in the middle of the week like that, and just everybody being in kind of like holiday mode, and of course everybody you call, every vendor, nobody's in the office because they're all on vacation or away from their desk for the holidays. So it's almost like a waste for everybody. You almost think and hope. I think Europe, right? England, Europe, overseas, they do like the whole 3-month thing, right? You take holiday for 3 months and you go chill out and party and hang out, and then all of a sudden you come back to work and pick up where you left off. I mean, that's a beautiful concept and idea, right? I mean, you would think that that idea would have spread by now and the whole world would be doing it, but apparently they're doing it in Europe, and they live longer than we do. Go figure that one. Right? So yeah, man, guys, jet lagged off the holidays, a little cuckoo-cuckoo, but I will tell you, they were fantastic. Holidays 2019, Christmas 2019, just kind of looking back and reminiscing a little bit. They were absolutely fantastic. I'm glad we were able to do everything we did. We were able to see everyone that we've seen. There are a few more friends and family members that I would love to see. I think we have till the end of January. I think that's the Portuguese rule. You got till the end of January to see these people, so it's still considered the holidays. So, Jay Cavallo, I know you're listening, and you're waiting for your visit, and I will tell you that you are on that list. You're on the top of that list. We'll get over there and hang out and talk about some good times, guys. I mentioned Jay Cavallo in the past on many podcasts, and Jay Cavallo was a big part of my life for a very long time. And life gets ahead of you, and you end up you're doing one thing, I'm doing another, but ultimately somehow we just still manage to communicate. Much like Gary and I, we may not talk every day, but we do talk and we do communicate. So. I do miss him. I miss the family, and I can't wait for us to get together and hang out. And anybody else out there, guys, if you haven't done it yet, get there, get over to your family, go do your visits, go say hello to people. 'Tis the season still, right? You got till the end of the month. You can't, Happy New Year, right? You got to keep telling people Happy New Year. You got a couple more days. I think there's like 25 more days to get that. Done, but you don't want to be that guy, right? You don't want to be the guy that didn't go see his aunt or didn't go see his friend or her friend for the holidays, right? You don't want to be that guy. So, go do that. Go see your family. But more importantly, right? Get over to Etsy, guys. Get over there, www.etsy.com/shop/The Bobby Kudo Show. Go show your support for the show. We got a Patreon. So if you guys want to support us on Patreon, please do so. Again, guys, any support to the show is greatly appreciated. It's Patreon. It's the Bobby Kudo Show. Easiest thing in the world. I think I'm going to throw a link out there on the Facebook and on the Instagram and Twitter in hopes that maybe we can get some subscribers. There's a option there to subscribe to the show and help support the show like on a monthly basis. And again, if I could generate a little bit of revenue, I think that might be able to help me on the production side, and maybe I could do a lot more content. Maybe bring in some different elements of content. I've got some really great ideas, some cool segments that I'd like to bring into the show. Things. I kind of brought in a tested one with you guys today, in case you didn't notice, and it was the talking about Carnival Cruise Lines, and the segment is shitting where you eat, and this is a perfect example of that. You have a company whose main fundamental function is that of the ocean, and it literally is dumping in the ocean, right? So talk about shitting where you eat. So that's kind of like a segment. That's something that maybe I could bring on in other podcasts, or maybe do segments on the side. Who knows, right? The content could be pretty much anything, and I would just love the opportunity to have that creative freedom to do those things. But again, it all comes at a cost. And if I could generate some of that revenue through the show, again, I believe that would help get some time and help with the production side, and maybe I could get some help. Maybe get the stuff out a little quicker to you guys, and maybe you wouldn't have to wait and a whole week to get an episode. Maybe we could increase, maybe do 2. How cool that would be. Do 2 episodes a week, and then maybe 3 episodes a week. Whatever you guys want to hear. You know what I mean? Like that's really what I want to deliver. So let me know. Get on Instagram, get on Twitter, get on Facebook. Show your support for the show, guys. Let me know what you think. I really thank everyone for your support with Apple. I asked you guys in the last podcast, and I'll ask you again on this one, to please go over, if you haven't done so already, Apple Podcast, iTunes, and just put a review in for the show if you don't mind. It takes 2 seconds. Just rate the show. Some asshole out there gave me like a 2 rating, so now we're at a 4.5. So I got to get as many people as possible on there and voting so that we can get the show back up to a 5. I will tell you that it's just absolutely killing my OCD to go in there and see a 4.5. If you're out there, whoever gave me the 2 rating, that came real early, and I'm 21 episodes in now, so maybe you could go over there and reconsider, give me a couple of listens these later episodes, and then reconsider the comment. I don't even know if you could do that. I think maybe once you do it, you do it. You can't change it, but hey, you know what? It's worth a shot. Who knows? Maybe you're out there, maybe you're listening. But if you gave me a 2, maybe you could give a brother a 4, right? Throw me a 4 for goodness sake. I think I deserve at least that much, right? I can't be that bad. Right? I think we're up to like 3,000 listeners at this point, right? So it can't be that bad. At least 3,000 of you are on my side, right? I got to be grateful for that, as I am, guys, and I always am. And I just want to say, again, thank you to everyone. Thank you for all the support with the show. This, again, continues to be, I know I mention it on pretty much every episode. This is a dream come true for me, and I'm hoping that, the format continues to grow. I mentioned bringing Steve in on for the podcast, and I will apologize to everyone. I wanted him to be here for 21, but to no fault of his own, completely on my end. I just had a crazy week, just trying to catch up between work and making up for the day or the holiday, and just having some other events that took place. I couldn't find the time to schedule him in to the studio, and I refused to just squeeze him in. I really want it to be a great podcast, and I want to give him the respect and dignity of a full-on episode with my undivided attention. So I'm working on that right now, and I will be in touch with him hopefully this week, and maybe next Sunday we can have him on the show, and if he can make it. If not him, there are a couple of other potential individuals that I think would be great for the show. I think their opinion, their content would be real relevant and helpful to you. Not to mention very entertaining to all of us, as the show is always, as I hope it is. At least in my perception, it is. When I listen to this over and over again, I'm my own worst critic. I tend to critique quite a bit, and I try to fix what I can, and just smoothing out the rough edges to make the show just flow and feel a little more organic to you. Very much like just something that you become used to and expect. Keeping the format of the show the same way, talking about history, talking about the future, and talking about a little bit about what's going on in current events. I know the beginning of the show was a rant about Iran. And I just, I thought it was important to just talk about that. I would never want you guys to think that I'm avoiding these conversations or these topics, but I just, I tend to look at these things a little differently. And again, I would never, I'm not a firefighter, so I would never tell a firefighter how to put out a fire. And I've never, and to the same token, I've never been the president. So I'm not going to tell the president how to president. So I'm going to let him do his job. I'm going to sit back, sit tight in hopes that all of our troops make it home safely at this point, because I think ultimately that's the most important thing that's going on here right now. I don't believe that it's the Iran factor. I believe it's the troop and soldier factor. The fact that we're sending troops overseas again is not a good thing. We always want to keep them home, and the idea that 3,000 troops are over there now, with uncertainty and not clear. Let's my heart and prayers go out to them and to their families in hopes for their safe return. May we not lose one single troop or soul for this purpose or this reason. Let's hope that we can resolve this situation humanely and without the cost of life. Sometimes, again, when you stand up to your bully, sometimes it takes quite a bit. I don't know about you, but I was a victim, and I had a bully until the one day I decided that I wasn't going to be a victim anymore, and I stood up for myself. And that day changed my life, because I no longer had a bully. Once I confronted it and I addressed it head on, because really it comes to a point where you've got nothing left, and you're at dire straits. And when you decide to fight back, and that power realizes that you're not weak, and that you're willing to fight back, they tend to most likely turn around and walk away, and realize that you are now a danger to them, and not just a victim. And I hope that this is the case here, and that we can get past this terrible misunderstanding, and maybe to come to some resolution, and we can get the troops back home, and maybe just live in peace. You know what I mean? Bring in, maybe the summertime is coming before you know it, and maybe enjoy the summer and having just a prosperous, happy existence without turmoil and conflict with the world. But it seems like that's kind of the commonality, right? I mean, jeeps, like we got to get past it, guys. We really do. But ultimately, the message today, guys, if it wasn't clear to you, I want to just make it clear before I walk us out here, and that is that, whatever nationality you may be, and I mean your bloodline, me, I'm Portuguese, Rachel, Polish, English, and whatever you are, Iranian, Pakistani, Spanish, Mexican, it doesn't matter. If you're here and you're in this country, you are an American. And I just want you all to take that and keep it proudly with you, because it's not just anybody can be an American. Not just anybody can believe in freedom, and not everybody can live the dreams and aspirations that we choose to, and live in harmony, and to have a free market, to be prosperous, and to live the dream. So I want to remind you all that you are all Americans. We are all brothers, and we are all sisters, and we all live under the same flag. And regardless of what your thoughts may be of this president, it never ever should you ever deviate from being an American first. And when you start saying things like "sorry, Iran," things like that, I think are just detrimental to our country, and to our freedom and what it is we're trying to do in the world. Again, we may not always agree, because guys, we don't know all the information. The government, the president, they have people on the ground floor who are mining that information, who are telling them what's going on. This is a perfect example of the situation not taking place. You think of these terrible, horrific, terrorist events, like Las Vegas. That wasn't even Middle Eastern. That was some cuckoo, crazy maniac out in a hotel room at a Jason Aldean concert, and he's shooting at people down on the ground. How crazy is that, right? The idea that something like that could even happen. And if we could have prevented that, right? if we could prevented that, we would have never known, right? We would have never known. And that's what I'm saying here for this situation. If Trump didn't, order this missile strike to take this guy out, what might have happened, right? We don't know. So we have to have some type of faith and trust in that branch of government that what they're doing is in our best interest. And this, I would hope to be one of those situations that's just exactly that. But again, we won't know until the time comes, right? Like a year from now, 2 years from now, when Fox, CNN, or somebody's writing a book about it, and you really find out the truth of what was taking place, and what dangers were out there that we weren't even aware of. So I caution everybody, guys, just remember again that you are all Americans first, and I am proud of that. I am proud of you. I am proud of me. I am proud of all of us. That we live in the greatest country in the world, and again that we all have the freedom of opinion and of choice. But please, there's no reason to be just selfish and irresponsible with those liberties. I think it's all of our responsibility as Americans to look out for one another, but also stand up for what we believe we think is right in our best interest. And again, I don't question my plumber when he's fixing the pipes, because he knows what he's doing. I don't question the electrician when he's fixing the lights. I don't question the cable guy when he's fixing my cable, because these are people that know what they're doing. It's their job to know. And so I feel the same way in this case. There are people that know what they're doing, probably a lot more than I'll ever know. So I have to trust them as my elected officials to try to protect me and my family the best way they see fit. And I have to hope that they're doing that. And when we question that or we doubt those things, then we have bigger problems in our hands than just some drone dropping a missile on some terrorist thug out in the Middle East. We got bigger problems. So just stew on that for a minute, digest it, and I hope that you all have a wonderful week. Guys, I always seem like I look forward to this time so much, to get behind the microphone and to speak to all of you, and it just seems like it goes by so quick. So much preparation throughout the week to get here, to sit down and to deliver this information, and then before you know it, I'm looking down and we're 2 hours into the podcast. So not to keep you guys too long. Granted, it's going to be a full week this week, guys. It's a Monday through Friday week, and we're going to have to get through this one. So I hope that whether it's a full whole sitting that you listen to this to 21, or you enjoy it in small portions, either way, I hope you have enjoyed this episode. I hope that this information has found you happy and safe. I hope that I will catch you guys on the next one. Like I said, I will continue to do, I think the 7-day wrap is just working out perfectly. It just gives me enough time to put the show together and get some great information, and then really make the show relevant and up to date, because I'm getting information up to the minute. I'm literally updating the show even right before I press the record button. So you guys are getting this stuff fresh as can be, right off the press, and I think that that's very important. But I also think it's important that you guys are happy. You're taking care of you. Again, we just got through these holidays, and I know it's not easy, but unfortunately, we just got to find our rhythm again. It just seems like the Patriots weren't able to find their rhythm yesterday, and it cost them dearly. And I just want to caution everybody to find your rhythm again. You go a couple of days there, holidays, you sleep a little later, stay up a little later, have a couple extra drinks. But now it's time to buckle down and realize that it's a new year, guys. It's 2020, and we're starting at zero. And before you know it, summertime is here. It's vacation time, cookouts, barbecues, pools, right? Aren't those great thoughts to have? Those are all on our way. Yes, it's all coming. It's right around the corner, And with that said, guys, I would like to say that I believe that 21 was a great episode. I hope you feel the same way. I hope that I was able to cover a lot of fruitful information for you to digest, and hopes that you'll take it with you and meet me again here in about 7 days or so. And in between, guys, please hit me up, the BobbyKudoShow@gmail.com, Instagram, Twitter, the Facebook. I really, really appreciate the comments. I really appreciate the participation from you guys. It really does mean the world to me, and I want to continue to do this and do it the way that I'm doing it, in hopes that you guys are enjoying this information and this content as much as I am enjoying creating it. So with that said, guys, enjoy your week. If it's Monday, happy Monday. If it's Tuesday, happy Tuesday. If it's Friday, happy Friday. But other than that, it's just another beautiful day, right? It is. It's another beautiful day. And I'm glad that I'm here with you, and you're listening to the podcast, and it's reaching you safely. And with that said, guys, always remember, all roads lead here.